time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. It's a prism of endless possibility, where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities, creating alternate worlds from the ones you know. I am your minister. I am your guide through these vast new realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if? I am not a board member, I am Reverend Nick. But I will be sharing your announcements this morning. Welcome to visitors and anybody who is joining us for the first time this morning. Please fill out the blue card that is in the seat back pockets in front of you. A couple folks are holding them up over here. And if you are so inclined, please stand up in body or spirit to introduce yourself. Otherwise, we're very happy to have you here. So any visitors who want to introduce themselves, please do so. Welcome, Brian. Hi, Vicky. The UU Goddess group will meet this Thursday at 6 p.m. on Zoom and in person here in the sanctuary. The Zoom link is in the UU Augusta public calendar. Contact Jezebel and Knott for more information. That Goddess group is just for folks who identify as female. The RE class, K through 5th grade, will resume next Sunday on September 12th at 10:50 a.m. And sign your children in before church whenever you drop them off, please. The family ministry wing, drop them off in the family ministry wing no earlier than 10:50 a.m. And please pick them up by 12:10 p.m. after the service. And please register your children on the first day that they come. You can contact Reverend Kim Miner to hear more about what they do in religious exploration and to get your children signed up. The youth group will also meet next week on September 12th from 4 to 5:30 p.m. In the family ministry wing. You can contact Reverend Kim for more information about that as well. The Humanist Free Thought Zoom group will meet next Sunday, again, September 12th. It seems to be a big day, at 5 p.m. This is now a hybrid meeting. Before it was just Zoom, but now we're doing hybrid, so folks can come in person if they'd like. Work should be completed in the common room, on the wall in the common room by this Friday, so the group hopes to meet in there. Otherwise, they'll meet in family minister rooms 1 and 2 as they did last month. You can contact Frank Carl for more information about that. He's raising his hand back there. You can see an e-announcements and the UUCA public calendar for details of other events and other contact information in order to more fully engage with this community. And now, Chris, it is your turn.
Our chalice lighting today is by Alexis Engelbright, and it's the possibilities of this diverse space. In this space, with atheists and theists, with pagans and agnostics, with humanists and theists, and those who reject labels, what new understanding can emerge if we listen to one another? In this space, full of varied experiences, concerns, and hopes, what new revelations may come if our hearts and minds are open? In this space, where we covenant to seek the truth in love, to help one another, What new ways of life may emerge and come into being? Welcome to this diverse community and the possibilities within it, just waiting to be born.
Is hymn number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. And I'll be singing that alone up here today in order to make sure that we're not spreading too many germs and or viruses that you may have heard about. Mute this and unmute this, please. Come, thou fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. While the hope of life's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful. May we still thy goodness prove. Come, thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of war fall silent. Feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come, thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
When we come together as a community to share those joys and sorrows that have come into our lives over this last week. If you are in-house and would like to share a joy or sorrow, if you will make your way to my right, we will switch over to Zoom for their contributions as well. Maybe.
Now is a time in our service where we can take a breath and reground ourselves, especially if we're feeling any kind of anxiety about Zoom or anything else. I'm going to share a meditation today by my colleague, Reverend Sandra Fees, entitled Another Direction. The moment comes when a choice arises, a holy moment. A decision must be made. Do I remain as I am, or do I risk inching, leaping, flowing in another direction? Do I risk what I think I already know and already am? Do I forfeit my security for the possibility that a simple shift may alter the course of my life, even perhaps the life of another? I long to let go of all that restrains me so that I might pursue the impossible and surmount the insurmountable. To let go of anger, to let go of the need to be in control, to forgive a friend, to forgive myself, to refuse what thwarts my spirit, to refuse what limits my mind, to surrender to what will come, to surrender to this holy moment I have let slip away for too long.
Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is a sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. At this point, we'll have the offertory with the ushers come up.
So, full disclosure, I am a huge nerd. Always have been and always will be. I grew up with comic book stories and characters as a foundational part of my life. Much of my playtime as a child was imagining that I was some comic book character or another. Silver Surfer was always my favorite. Yeah, up top. Yeah. Nerd's a symbol, right? When Marvel and then Disney started retelling these stories for the big screen, really well, I might add, at least with the first Iron Man, I was elated. I knew so many of these storylines and characters so well, feeling like my nerd past put me on the inside track of coolness amid this new nerd-friendly culture. I was cool before it was cool, right? This feeling of coolness fully emerged as it became apparent the overarching story being told in the Marvel Cinematic Universe was about Thanos and the Infinity Stone saga. The source material for this story was in the first book I bought at Powell's bookstore in Portland, Oregon, on my first true family vacation and trip on an airplane between 4th and 5th grade. Nothing but fond, formative memories of both that trip and that comic book. Incidentally, Powell's bookstore, if you have never been there, is my single favorite place in the entire world. Period. Full stop. One whole downtown city block maze of book magic. Again, nerd. Now, because I was so acquainted with the original story, I basically knew what was going to happen at the end. Though they made some changes, it essentially ended the same way I expected. Even used some of the same images that made this nerd fanboy squeal with excitement each time I noticed an embedded Easter egg from the comic book, like Drax being turned into blocks by Thanos. Watching these stories, the possibilities weren't that endless for me, and that was part of the excitement. It made me feel close to the story because I kind of knew what was going to happen. And it's comforting and affirming to see the stories you know so well be told on such a grand scale. I used to get annoyed at some of the small changes in comic book movies, or any book-based movie for that matter, that veered from the source material, being a bit of a purist. However, now the Marvel Cinematic Universe is definitively moving into the so-called multiverse. They're literally playing with the endless possibilities that do exist in time, space, and reality. Anything could happen. Thinking of each variation of the same story that has already been told now as just another universe in the multiverse of possibilities has helped me relax my neuroses about purity a little bit in storytelling. And since they're really leaning into those possibilities now, I couldn't be more excited to see how they play with it all, how they fully pursue the possible. The Disney Plus show in which Marvel is currently fully exploring possibility is called What If? In case people missed it, I used the opening voiceover from that show as today's welcome words, with one obvious variation. I'll try to avoid too many spoilers, but I can say the show's premise is what would happen? What would be the avalanche of different effects as the result of just one detail, big or small? If one detail were to change in the stories we already know, what would happen if somebody decided not to walk up the stairs? What if an alien picks up a different person? Or who all would be impacted when an integral character dies earlier than we thought they would? How does it all change? Who matters? How many different possibilities can there be? The recently completed first season of Loki on Disney Plus also played with how many possibilities there can be. But they focused on what that means for one person, well, for one god, if you ask Loki. With any Nexus event, or the event as they call it, that causes changes to a given timeline and creates a whole new story or stories, an endless number of possibilities exist. This is true for individuals too. We are constantly becoming by and through all the people and experiences we encounter each moment. Every moment literally makes us a different person. And we can't go back. There are thousands of versions of us. There will be thousands more. That makes possibility more endless based on who we choose to spend time with and what we do. Our choices and actions have a mighty role to play in who we are and what happens in the world. We'll talk much more about embracing the endless possibility of you, of me, at the end of September. I know we have some Buddhist folks here, people who identify with that as part of their Unitarian Universalist identity. But there's one particular kind of Buddhism that I really feel drawn to called Mahayana Buddhism. And in Mahayana Buddhist theology, it's all kind of built around endless possibility with the idea of dependent origination. Dependent origination. It means that things cannot arise on their own and have myriad causes and conditions that are part of the thing. They're included in that thing. Every person, story, idea, moment, thing is inclusive of the people, stories, ideas, moments, things that got them to this point. This is an incredibly simplistic definition because whole graduate level classes could be taught on the subject and are. But for our purposes today, the innumerable causes going into a single moment obviously has an impact on the future of countless possibilities too. Speaking of graduate level classes, all this theological and philosophical reflection is supported by what's called multiverse theory in science. I'm no expert on the theory, and diving into the weeds of it isn't going to add too much extra meaning making to today's sermon. But I will say that there are some very smart minds, much smarter than me out there, who make a strong argument that these endless stories do, in fact, exist alongside one another. It's not just fantastic and poetic conjecture. Every variation that could ever happen has and will. I'll let you do some more research on multiverse theory on your own if you're so inclined. It has some massive implications about destiny and what is supposed to happen. Now, we're not the only religion pursuing possibility today. Judaism, which is included in our 6 UU sources, is celebrating Rosh Hashanah this weekend. Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year. And like any New Year celebration, possibility is on a lot of folks' minds. In a September 2017 Rav blog post from the Central Conference of American Rabbis, Rabbi Sarah Sapedin says, quote, "On Rosh Hashanah, we are urged to step in and experience the wonder of limitless possibility. We call this day Hayom Harat Olam, the day the world burst into being. This is the day of the world's beginning, but it marks our beginning as well. On this day, there's no telling what we can do or who we can become. Our potential is endless, limited only by the stretch of our own imagination. Creation is not an end, we learn, but a beginning. This day is not only about cataloging the birth stories of our history, it is about catalyzing these beginnings in our own lives. Against this incredible tapestry of birth, we stand poised to write our own stories of renewal." End quote. according to our Jewish siblings, with the endless possibilities that do exist as each moment becomes. We have the power and authority to impact which story out of the endless list is possible. A perpetual and renewed creation story, over and over again, during Rosh Hashanah and every day of our lives, somehow increasing the already infinite. That sounds like something straight out of a comic book to me. A final note I'd like to add today is that just because there are infinite choices, it doesn't mean that you should make all of them. Some of them can be damaging in little ways or big. And depending on the amount of power you have, they can be downright universe-shattering. In the most recent What If episode, Dr. Strange, the most powerful sorcerer in the multiverse that we know of, makes choice after choice that spell doom for all of existence. This, of course, is fantasy. Or is it? But I digress. But it does tell an important truth nonetheless. Yes, we may have endless choices, and there may be endless possibilities. Yet, great care and thoughtfulness about how much we can impact the world around us as those possibilities unfold is required. The expansive Marvel multiverse continues to expand as ours does, as we expand. There are so many MCU movies coming out in their so-called Phase 4, with new characters being introduced, like Shang-Chi this past weekend, which Janae and I saw. It was pretty good. New spins on old characters, and even bringing in seemingly unrelated other cinematic universe storylines. You'll see a little bit of that in the Spider-Man trailer. It might get a little out of hand. The next Doctor Strange movie is called Multiverse of Madness, after all. Though we don't have much or any control in how our stories unfold around us, we do have some agency in the process. And sometimes, even too much power, depending on who we are. We may not have the sorcery of Doctor Strange to see and create all the possibilities at once, but we certainly can pursue some that are marvel us, especially with a little help from our friends. As we know, the biggest challenges in the Marvel universe are best tackled with a team of superheroes who hold each other accountable and support each other. As we pursue the possible together, may every day be Hayom Harat Olam. May our world of endless possibilities always be bursting into being and not universe ending. And like the superhero characters fighting against all odds, may our pursuit of a new, more just creation, built through the superpowers of compassion, reason, and respect, be relentless. Today's final hymn, one I'm guessing pretty much everyone knows, but David will be singing alone today as we continue our precautions against COVID spread, is This Little Light of Mine.
Yes, I will be singing. But you know, you guys, you might be moved to clap your hands when I sing it. And you know, if you're really feeling crazy, you might feel compelled to, you know, bang a tambourine. Anyone can get a tambourine. Anyway, I mean, you can go get your own. They've all been sanitized. You can get your hands ready. I'll get my fingers ready. You guys ready? Are you ready? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. everywhere I go. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine, 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 let it shine.
Paraphrasing from the closing voiceover of What If Episode 1. One choice can give birth to a whole new history and give the world a new hero.